If you hold XRP, no BS guys, this is going to be one of the biggest years for Ripple, for XRP, and the rest of the crypto industry. In this video, we have to break down some massive news that's taking place. Brad Garlinghouse dropping a bombshell, talking about RLUSD being set to become the gold standard. The video that I made 3 days ago where Elon Musk said that Trump is on the Epstein list, causing Bitcoin to crash from around $106,000 to around 100K, over 6%. Well, a lot of people are not ready for what comes next, not only for Bitcoin, but the rest of the altcoin industry, specifically Ripple's XRP. So we're going to get into the XRP, the US dollar price chart, total 2, which is the entire altcoin market cap price chart. Also, the past couple days of this crash, I've been able to generate over $15,000 trading and outperform Bitcoin by over 12%. And what's about to happen next for Bitcoin's dominance that is critical for the altcoin industry that everyone has been waiting on the edge of their seats for, to experience a massive breakout for altcoins. So I'm going to explain when that's likely to happen and what you can do to prepare to make the most amount of money possible. So I hope you guys are having an amazing Sunday. I appreciate you for watching this video. Comment 777 if you're feeling blessed, if you're feeling bullish, and if you're going to become the first millionaire in your family tree. Confirm it by tapping the subscribe button. Let's run it. All right, bull runners, welcome back to the channel. So far over the last 30 days, the altcoin market has been getting beaten up, 10 to 20% for a lot of these projects. Some outliers doing pretty well. Hype is up 41%. In fact, inside of Altcoin Pro University, Yoni talked about Hyperliquid about 24 days ago, saying why it could have room to run. And that was right here when Hyperliquid was at $25. And it rallied over 50% to 39. Currently, it's still up over 36%, while the vast majority of the industry is down 10% over the past month. And so our research team does an incredible job of breaking down why certain projects are poised to see mass adoption. So you guys can check out these posts through the link in the description below if you want to be able to spot these types of altcoins, because it's up over 240% since April over the past 3 months. Now, the purpose of this video is to talk about what's happening with XRP. We're going to get into the XRP price chart. And for those of you that want to win some XRP, just make sure you're entered in to our next giveaway. Go to Twitter or X, follow us at BullRunnersHQ. The link will be below. And then just like the pin post, retweet it, comment XRP, and then subscribe to our daily video newsletter, because that's where we're going to announce the winner. And you'll get our free book called Altcoin Secrets to take your crypto investing journey to the next level. So I know you guys are going to love it, because even though I'm very bullish on XRP, I do believe in having a strong diversification strategy, because there are certain projects that will outperform XRP, in my opinion, in the short term. And we share how to find those projects. And also our team gives you the top projects that they're the most bullish on in Altcoin Pro. Because when you look at this post from Brad Garlinghouse saying RLUSD has been nearly a year in the making, and with their trusted exchange partners, market makers, and advisory board, RLUSD is set to become the gold standard for enterprise-grade stablecoins built on trust, liquidity, and compliance. Well, this is massive because Ripple stablecoin is now a recognized crypto token under the Dubai Financial Services Authority regime in Dubai, which is just going to further expand Ripple's footprint across the UAE and the Middle East. And this week, we're going to see massive announcements about the Genius Act to propel America's payment system into the 21st century and finally give clarity for stablecoins that everyone's been looking for. Listen to what Senator Bill Hagerty, the former U.S. ambassador to Japan, just said.
Yes, those conversations are underway. I certainly respect the process that we're addressing. But right now, this really isn't about policy, nor is it process. We're just trying to get floor time right now to get this processed. We have broad agreement, Kaylee, with respect to the content of this stablecoin legislation, My Genius Act. And this is going to, I think, take us into the 21st century in terms of upgrading our payment systems. It's going to have very desirable effects, taking the U.S. economy into the digital assets arena, keeping innovation here, lowering risk here in America, and putting in place guardrails that will protect consumers, because every one of these stablecoins will be backed up dollar for dollar with U.S. treasuries. Very positive outcome here. We've got very strong support.
So what's happening, guys? Institutional access to crypto is accelerating with the Genius Act, and from the launch of XRP futures and ETFs on CME and the NASDAQ just this week, it's clear the market is maturing and exposure to crypto is expanding. Look at this post right here from Ripple. Here's Brad Garlinghouse explaining why crypto ETFs are a big deal.
1 minute on why are people excited about crypto ETFs. I think there's two main factors going on here. One is, for the longest time, institutional investors primarily trading on Wall Street, really haven't been able to access crypto directly. Their options were to either self-custody, onboard with an exchange, and some people don't like centralized exchanges for a whole host of reasons. So this was really the first time you had institutions be able to go on Wall Street and trade directly in crypto. This is an unlock for a couple reasons. For capital that couldn't come in, whether it's an endowment, whether it's a pension fund, even mutual funds that didn't or couldn't access crypto, now they can. The second thing is it really is institutionalizing the entire industry of crypto. I think it should be no surprise that the Bitcoin ETF was the fastest ETF ever to get to $1 billion in assets. I think it passed 10 billion in assets faster than anyone as well. And today I think we'll eventually close in on the gold ETF, and that's in 1 minute.
So he struggled a little bit to get that off, but there's plenty of other reasons for ETFs that are bullish. And some other bullish news are these key dates. June 16th in the next week marks the end of the 60-day pause granted in the Ripple versus SEC case to explore potential settlement. So if no agreement is reached or no status update is filed by then, the appeals process will resume. So eventually this is a bullish catalyst to look forward to because the news alone of the lawsuit is just going to be positive for XRP. It just depends on when it's dropped and what's happening on the price action of the chart at the time for Bitcoin and the rest of the industry, which I'll get into in a little bit. But July 14th, next month, the US Fedwire Fund Service for ISO 222 migration. This was rescheduled, and now this will give institutions more time to prepare, but time's going to fly by very, very quick. It's in a month and about a week from now. Also, we have big news happening this week for the Genius Act, focusing on creating clear regulatory framework for stablecoins. By September 30th, all U.S. federal agencies must stop issuing paper checks and switch to electronic payments, including direct deposits and real-time methods when possible. So this is an executive order modernizing federal payments and encouraging real-time options. By October 9th, towards the end of the year, all Euro area banks must send instant payments. Fees must not exceed those of regular SEPA transfers. And by October 18th and 19th, the SEC has been given a 240-day deadline to decide on the Grayscale XRP Trust and the 21 shares XRP Trust ETFs with deadlines on those days respectively. And by November of this year, all financial institutions using SWIFT for cross-border payments must fully adopt ISO 222. The MIT messaging standard will be discontinued, and towards the end of this year, ISO 222 is expected to become the global standard for financial messaging, covering 80% of the world's transaction volume, 87% of total transaction value. And if you guys didn't watch my previous video, I broke down why Ripple is an important factor for ISO 222. But if you didn't watch that video, check this out. Back in May of 2020, Ripple became the first blockchain company focused on distributed ledger technology to join the ISO 222 Registration Management Group, a key standards body overseeing the standards development. So this position allowed Ripple to influence the future of global payment standards, ensuring distributed ledger technology's role in financial messaging. They're not just compliant, guys. They were the first company to join their management group. That's like being the first pick in the NBA draft. So that tells us everything that we need to know. And plus, Ripple's global payment network, RippleNet, was designed with ISO 222 compatibility in mind, enabling them to connect seamlessly with financial institutions worldwide through a standardized API, facilitating interoperability with traditional bank systems, which has been their plan all along. So this is just going to enhance cross-border payments and allow XRP to be used as a bridge asset in their on-demand liquidity service, which aligns with ISO 222's goal of reducing costs and settlement times for cross-border payments. The growth or the decline of XRP is going to be based on other key factors like global liquidity, also what's happening with the Federal Reserve, with what Trump is saying, because certain headlines like what Elon posted out there about Trump that I covered 3 days ago dropped the price of Bitcoin rapidly. But here's a portion of that video. And so with the sell-off in the market, this is flushing out a lot of leverage traders that were longing the market for Bitcoin. So maybe Bitcoin wicks below 100K according to Benjamin Cowan for a bit, then rebounds back to $103,000 to $104,000 for a few days. Well, tomorrow is the labor market report, CPIs next week, then the FOMC the week after. So there's plenty of catalysts for narrative shifts so people can blame the volatility on something. And right along cue with the global money supply pulling back for M2, Bitcoin is pulling back as well too. And so if this correlation is accurate for M2, well, we all know what comes next for Bitcoin. And if we look at the price chart right here, I made a video about this about 3 weeks ago, talking about a macro bearish divergence for Bitcoin to experience a much larger pullback. And we could be going through that right now with this pullback. With this drop, it's bringing Bitcoin to around 10%. If we look at the last bull run cycle on this pullback right here below the high, it was about 25% for Bitcoin. And if we look at the relative strength index, it's sitting at about 42. And the stochastic RSI here on the bottom of the screen, the K line and the D line are at 5 and 10, below 20. And that was on the daily chart. And if we look at Bitcoin's price chart now, well, the price rebounded back up. So Benjamin Cowan was right. We're sitting at $105,000. The real question is if we break out to the upside from here or if we go down. One thing that we can notice is ever since the 25th of April until the 22nd of May, you know, the saying sell in May, go away. It's been true thus far because Bitcoin's price has been pulling back since the 22nd, but we can see this bearish divergence where the price chart was making higher highs, you know, as I talked about over the past few weeks. The RSI has been making higher highs up until the 22nd of May and topped out right here at 77, whereas the stochastic RSI, this is the bearish divergence that I was talking about. Now, it would have been more confluence to see a bearish divergence on the relative strength index, but we didn't see that. We only saw the bearish divergence on the daily on the stochastic RSI. And all that means is the price chart makes higher highs and a key indicator like the stochastic RSI would make lower highs. Confluence would be is if the RSI showed lower highs, the stochastic RSI showed lower highs, and we saw higher highs on the price chart. That'd be a massive sign of a bearish divergence for momentum shifting from bullish over to bearish with this pullback right now. And so currently this pullback for what we're seeing is only 10%. So it's not out of the question for Bitcoin to drop even further. You know, 15% will put it at $94,000. That wouldn't be out of the ordinary, actually. I would not be surprised. In fact, I'd be excited for that to happen because right now the RSI is at 53. The stochastic RSI for the K line, the D line is at 47 and 38. So we're neither in overbought conditions or oversold conditions. We're right here in the middle for both of these indicators. And so for that reason, I'm neither extremely bullish for Bitcoin and XRP, which I'll get into in a little bit, and I'm neither extremely bearish because it's really a coin flip of what happens next. And I'm not going to tell you guys with 100% certainty that I know what's going to happen, but I will show you a strategy that I apply to be able to make money in these markets. For example, over the past few days, you know, I'm up over $15,000, and this is since June 5th. As you guys can see, Bitcoin's change was 3% right here on the 6th. Bitcoin was down 0.66. I was up 8% right here. On the 7th, Bitcoin is up 0.54. I was up 8.38. And then today I'm up 12%. Bitcoin hasn't changed much. But by leveraging this simple divergent strategy, I'm able to make money on the way up and on the way down during these pullbacks. For example, I'm in a trade right now for XRP. And as you guys can see in P&L, I'm up $9,000 if I close this trade right now. Now, the cool thing is this is a risk-free trade along with this coin right here up $1,300. This coin is down $400, but it's floating profit and loss until it's closed. So with the XRP trade, worst case scenario is if XRP comes up here to $2.27, this trade closes out at $1,800 in profit. You know, best case scenario is XRP continues to the downside and this trade goes over $10,000 in profit. And then I would just have my stop loss move as XRP drops in price. And how I was able to spot this trade right here, even though I'm bullish on XRP, you can also short XRP leveraging the exchange that we recommend below. And if you guys get started through the exchange and you scroll down below this video, you click this link right here, there's a 10% deposit bonus up to 50K through the end of July. So definitely take advantage of that. But I'll teach you the strategy really quick, and then I'll actually make a longer video diving more in depth for some nuanced points because there's different types of divergences. But this one right here, you guys can see when XRP's price went from $2.25 all the way up here to $2.27 on the 15-minute chart, we can see that the stochastic RSI formed a bearish cross all the way up here. And then as the price chart made a higher high, well, the stochastic RSI made a lower high and dropped drastically on this major pullback. And so 3 or 4 or 5 points of contact, because look at the relative strength index. You know, on this high right here, we were at 80. We experienced a little pullback, and then the price rallied up to $2.28. You know, the relative strength index goes to 81. So it formed a little bit of an equal high, a little bit of a higher high. I would consider this somewhat of an equal high, whereas the price chart made a clear higher high. So when XRP pulled back and made another bounce back up to this high and formed another higher high right here at about $2.29, almost $2.30. This was the sign for me that XRP was about to reverse, because look at the relative strength index. We formed a lower high at 72, and the stochastic RSI fell off of the shelf and could barely muster up the strength to rally to 33. So while the stochastic RSI was forming a drastically lower high, the relative strength index was clearly overvalued, having a lower high, and then the price chart could barely muster up enough strength to rally above this high and then just went sideways while the relative strength index slowly formed lower highs. This was telling me we were about to fall off of a shelf. And I actually think XRP is going to come down a little bit further, which is why I'm letting this trade ride and I'm not going to close it out right now. So like I said, worst case scenario, $1,800 in profit. Best case scenario is XRP breaks down further and I just have a trailing stop loss. Now, you guys can become better at reading charts just by going into the classroom right here, scrolling down and going to Technical Analysis Essentials and run through this entire course right here and all of these videos so you can understand how to use certain moving averages to spot when we're overvalued or oversold, and the 4 horsemen of technical analysis, so definitely check that out. This helped me become a better trader. And as always, none of what I say in this video is financial advice. These videos are purely for education, informational purposes only. Because crypto is risky, you can definitely lose money in these markets, so definitely consult your financial advisor, as these videos are just purely for news, speculation, and data that we see on the charts. What you choose to do is completely up to you, so I'm not telling you to buy anything, I'm not telling you to sell anything. I'm just going to share with you what I see happening on the charts and in the news, because a lot of people look at the utility of something, or they see some bullish macro news like, ISO standard, XRP ETFs, the lawsuit coming to a conclusion, but yet then they see the price go down and they're like, why is this happening? Because they need to learn, you need to learn how to read charts. And understanding some fundamental news as well too does play into that, so we can know what's happening next, because this week is shaping up to be a whirlwind. Whereas Monday, tomorrow, US and China trade talks kick off, so we're going to see some volatility around that. On Wednesday, the CPI data drop, so inflation insights are going to be incoming. And then on Thursday, the PPI data is following. And in 9 days from right now, we have the FOMC meeting with Jerome Powell talking about what's going to happen for interest rates. So 99% are expecting Jerome Powell to keep the rates where they're at, unless something crazy happens and he expects to cut rates. We're going to see what he says for the next few meetings coming up, because the next meeting after June 18th is July 30th, and 83% are expecting Jerome Powell to keep rates current again. So Trump is going to have to find a way to get Jerome Powell out of there if he wants rates to be cut over the next 1 to 2 meetings, which is why we're seeing massive volatility in the markets, because there's no clarity on interest rates dropping. They're keeping rates steady until something breaks. The talks about tariff trade deals aren't going the way that Trump wants, because China is extremely tough. Now him and Elon Musk, which have been extremely bullish on crypto, are not getting along. So that's not giving the general public confidence that they know what they're doing. It's kind of looking like a clown show between Trump and Elon right now. So people are just getting their popcorn and watching. And the only thing that people really have to cling on to is M2, Global Liquidity Index right here, trending upward. So if global liquidity continues to increase, well, that's good. But the next thing that we need to see is the Fed adding to their balance sheet, and also Jerome Powell lowering interest rates, because the Fed has been tightening on their balance sheet ever since 2022 until this starts to see some leeway and starts to work its way back up. Kind of like what happened here. You guys see back in 2020, February 2020, when it started to spike drastically. This is what really caused the bull run, on top of low interest rates, the CARES Act, where they signed trillions of dollars into law for stimulus checks. It was the perfect storm of opportunity, and M2 global liquidity exploded as well too. So we have the Fed tightening on their balance sheet. We have them keeping rates higher for longer. M2 is going up. We need the other 2 catalysts to explode the crypto market. So we're in a downtrend until that happens, because as you guys can see, since the 22nd of May, we've just been forming lower highs. And also, if I zoom out here, this is on the 1-hour chart, forming lower highs and lower lows. But if I zoom out to the 4-hour chart, you can see this massive bearish divergence right here from the 9th of May, where the price chart was putting in higher highs, very easy to spot. And the stochastic RSI, put in a major lower high here. And then also on the relative strength index, we're all the way up at 83. And as you can see, until the high of the 13th of May, we put in a lower high on the relative strength index. So this signaled that momentum, as you can tell, was drastically bullish from the 7th of May. And the altcoin market is specifically Bitcoin too. You're going to notice this, and XRP. When it rallies really fast. And then we go sideways / down for a long period of time, and it's really boring. Look at how quick this rally was right here from the 7th of May all the way up until the RSI was overheated. It was 1 day and 12 hours, even to the peak, 5 days. You had less than 5 days, and trying to time that where you were going to buy on the way up, you couldn't do that. That's why time in the markets beats trying to time the markets exactly. So if you just had time in and you were just accumulating during this phase right here, well then bam, when it exploded, your portfolio would have been up. And so during this long, boring consolidation phase, even if we go down further in the short term and it takes a while to break out of these levels right here before the market goes bam and boom, explodes, well, that's where time in the markets is going to beat trying to time the markets on the next major breakout. Because right now, as you guys can see, if I just clear the chart right here, we just experienced a bearish cross above 80 on the stochastic RSI. The relative strength index is still just forming lower highs. It's struggling to break the high of the 3rd of June. We would need to see this level clear of 1.5 roughly $2 trillion in order to see some type of trend reversal and some hope. Otherwise, I'm slightly leaning more bearish for us to roll over another time for the altcoin market to do something like this before we start to break out, potentially forming a lower low. Otherwise, we need to clear this level. If we don't clear this level, I'm agnostic. I'm not really like bullish or bearish. I'm just kind of neutral, slightly leaning more bearish for us to break to the downside because of what I'm seeing on the XRP price chart as well too, and confluence on the total 2 chart. And what I just showed you guys with the bearish divergence, which is why I'm up over $8,000 on this trade right here. So I don't look at XRP as something that I date. I look at it as something that I trade. Now I do also hold XRP long term. That's a different conversation and a different portion of my portfolio. But I do think it's smart to be able to grow your portfolio, learning how to capitalize on short-term swing trades. Because when we look at the Wyckoff schematic right here, we can see the breakdown in phase A for XRP, ever since the 14th of May when XRP topped out up here at about $2.64. I talked about this breakout, by the way, several weeks ago when XRP was sitting at $2.19, explaining how XRP was about to break out into this zone and face some resistance to come back down. And also pairing that up with the Wyckoff schematic, we saw XRP do just that. It broke all the way up into this key zone of resistance, all the way from back here since the beginning of March, where XRP gets rejected from the zone, peaking out $2.65, and now we're coming back down, which is the markdown of phase A. And so what we see here is a key level of support for XRP right here at $2.08 and also down here at $2.06. So that's the current support right now. Unless we break below it, then this will be the support that we watch for phase B, where as you guys can see on the Wyckoff schematic, we break all the way up here to resistance. We break all the way up to here to resistance, get rejected, come all the way back down, get rejected, come all the way back down. And then we just range between resistance, which is what we're doing right now, ranging between resistance. And then in the shorter time frame, right now we're on the hour, but the 15-minute chart showed a bearish divergence with the price chart making higher highs, and then the stochastic RSI and the relative strength index making lower highs. And so unless we break above $2.30 and total 2 breaks above $1.2 trillion, then in my opinion, I think XRP comes all the way back down to these levels down here, and then even could go below them for the spring phase right here before coming back up as the final test before the SOS phase. And we finally break, $2.30. We go through some type of SOS in phase D right here on the Wyckoff schematic, right at these key resistance lines, which is about $2.30. So whether we go above it or we consolidate right through it, something like this, before going into phase E and the markup phase for the next breakout for XRP is what I would expect. The real question is how low is this spring phase going to put XRP? Are we going to see some type of flash crash, massive wick to the downside, or is it just going to be right around like $2 to $2.05? That's what I don't know. So we're going to be watching the key indicators on the more macro time frames. Instead of the hour, we'll be looking at the 4-hour, and we'll also be looking at the daily, because right now the 4-hour, we're experiencing a bearish cross all the way up here. So I would not be buying into XRP right now while we're all the way up at 90 and 80 on the stochastic RSI. The relative strength index is at 61. That's why I'm shorting XRP right now, because I do think XRP is going to range a little bit longer. It even has further to the downside to go, and even a final spring phase to liquidate a lot of leverage long traders, which would be just a classic thing for XRP to do, as it's done so many different times in the past, just to liquidate everyone and piss everybody off. I would expect something like that to happen before XRP just sends it higher and starts breaking out closer to the ISO 222 adoption, like leading into later July and even October and November when it's finally functional. So just get ready for this spring phase right here. That, in my opinion, may be the last opportunity to accumulate XRP this bull run, because that breakout for XRP, in my opinion, would be when Bitcoin's dominance tops out and starts dropping to the downside. Because as we can see right here on the monthly, Bitcoin's dominance has just been in a massive uptrend, forming higher highs and higher lows. But the stochastic RSI is at 98 and 95, so we're in overvalued conditions for Bitcoin's dominance. The relative strength index is at the highest that it's ever been, and also the MACD, you guys can see, just keeps climbing higher and higher and higher. Eventually, we're going to see a bearish cross where this blue line, the MACD line, crosses below the signal line. When the relative strength index tops out, I'd expect some type of maybe blow off top at like 80, 90, closer to 100. So I think Bitcoin's dominance has a little higher to go. And then eventually we break down on the relative strength index and we form a bearish cross on the stochastic RSI to come down below 80. This is what I would expect. And what will be happening at this point, you better be ready for, because this, in my opinion, is when XRP finally makes the move towards the end of this year, and you need to be properly positioned to benefit from that growth, not just by holding XRP, but by having a strong diversification strategy in altcoins that are going to experience the largest growth, some of them doing 10x, some of them doing 20x, some of them doing 50x, or yes, even 100x or more. For example, our research team posted GOAT on the 13th of October of 2024 when it was right at a penny, and since then it rallied to over $1, 5,000%. That's like turning $1,000 into over $50,000. Our team called Pendle at only a $16 million market cap, or 16 cents, back on February 18th of 2023, all the way back here, and since then it's rallied up over 4,000%. That's a 40x. It's like turning $1,000 into over $40,000. Our team also called BitTensor Tau September 15th, 2022, before the token was ever even launched. And since then, Tau has rallied over 2,000%. That's a 20x. Our team even said Solana is most likely to be one of the easiest trades next year, and this was posted December 29th, 2022, on the day that Solana bottomed out at around $8. And since then, Solana looks like it's up over 2,500%. That's a 25x. It's like turning $1,000 into over $25,000. The list goes on and on and on. Our team called Sui, Ondo, and even some of the biggest cult-based meme coins like MOG back in July 20th of 2023, the day that MOG launched. So if you want to learn how our team is finding these altcoins before they explode, we just launched Altcoin Pro University, where our research team gives you real-time altcoin picks with explosive potential for this bull run, along with 100+ expert curated classes crafted by industry experts to discover these gems yourself, on top of our live weekly calls every single week for in-depth crypto market analysis and daily updates. And that's just a fraction of what we offer inside of Altcoin Pro University through the link below. And although we make no guarantees because crypto is definitely risky, guys, this is only $97 a month or $970 a year. If you want to save $194, getting 2 months for free and unlock some exclusive bonuses, just go through the link in the description below, get in right now, watch the 26-minute video covering everything that Altcoin Pro University offers to help you become the first millionaire in your family tree, if that's a goal of yours. And you can get started through the link in the description below right now, or you can go to bullrunners.com to take advantage of the bonuses we're giving you before they expire. Everyone is loving the community. They're loving the education. They're getting access to real-time altcoin picks first before we ever make videos about them. So click the link in the description below, watch the video, and I'll see you on the inside.
Well, we go on, we go from the highest highs to the canyons fall. The great awakening's calling you.
My fellow Americans and time-traveling patriots, where we go one, we go all together. One nation, under God,